The ride of your life is daddyhood.
For those of you who cannot wait and love daddyhood, please head over to our Patreon. We have exclusive access to episodes, we have early access to episodes, and we have behind the scenes footage. Head on over there, sign up, be part of the exclusive daddyhood group, and join us over there. Welcome back to Daddyhood. As you know, season 1, Path to Parenthood, although this one is somewhat of a hybrid because there's so many different routes we can go with this. My friends, Karalynne Call and Jeff Call, welcome to Daddyhood.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so you are the president and co-founders of Just Ingredients, a health and wellness company dedicated to inspiring people to live healthier and happier lives. Recognized as one of Utah's top 10 fastest growing companies, Just Ingredients offers 200 plus nutrition and personal care products made with nourishing, real, natural ingredients. Big fan of the vanilla and peanut butter chocolate protein.
Thank you.
Awesome. My household. Karalynne, a certified nutritionist, has a strong influence on social media and has grown her Instagram community at Ingredients to over 1 million people, where she educates the importance of knowing about the ingredients we put into our body. That's how I sort of found and discovered, because it was one of your very first swap, like this or that swap.
Yeah?
I was like, oh, this is actually easy and not intimidating. And it was just the way you broke it down was so genius.
Oh, thank you. We're trying to make it easy for people.
Yeah, well, you do. The top 20 ranking podcast, Just Ingredients, has been host to nationally renowned experts and doctors who help her share the best ingredients for life. Karalynne and Jeff's passion for mental health, educating others, and creating nourishing products has transformed lives and inspired millions, including my own. And Jeff was a fantastic pickleball.
I'm glad he played well that day.
He was at my foundation's first pickleball tournament, and we got second.
Yeah, we did.
But
I was impressed.
I will say this. We lost to 20-year-olds.
And they were the Pepperdine tennis team. So
that is worth note, too. Is they were very good.
They were very good. Yes.
Yeah.
So here at Daddyhood, we like to break the ice with a dad joke.
Okay.
So if you will entertain me.
Are they just as bad as Jeff's jokes?
Oh, they're really bad. But perfect. I have a feeling you have
right up my
memorized
alley.
this. Why did the gym close down?
Oh, you're good at answering these. What's your...
I don't know.
It just didn't work out.
Those are as bad as Jeff's. Yep.
Yeah, they're bad.
He usually, like, nightly has a joke like that for the kids.
Good.
They love it. They love it.
I was gonna say that's like the unwritten rule, and I feel like
being a dad.
Yeah. You just have to have like the little embarrassing moments every once in a while just to remind them that, like,
yes,
I'm here.
That's right. And when they stop laughing is when I start getting a little sad, because as they get older, they're like, Dad, that was dumb.
Yeah. It changes, the response changes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to start from the beginning of just how you both identified this opportunity, because what you've done in the landscape already in such a short time for nutrition and just using your platform. I mean, there's obviously a need and a demand for people to want to educate themselves. You know, take me back just to where and how it started.
Okay, if I tell how the company started, I have to go back like 17 years. Are you okay if I give the whole background?
Go for it. Yes,
you got a couple minutes?
I want to lay the foundation for everyone here, just to like give them a scope of just the incredible company that you've built.
Okay, so about 18 years ago, we had 3 little boys at the time, and I found myself with really bad depression and terrible depression, and depression looks different for everybody. I had some days of anger, some days of frustration, some days of not wanting to get out of bed, some days of not being able to make decisions, sadness, just a gloom and darkness. And I had it for a couple years, and went to doctors trying to get help, but back then they didn't know how to help anybody with depression. So I tell people today, if you have a doctor that doesn't know what to do, run, because we have so much research and science on this now. But back then they didn't know how to help people with depression. And so one day I just had it. I was like, I can't live my life like this. I am so miserable. I am just so sad. People would say, like, hang on, you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember sitting in a chair thinking, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Like, it's not coming. And so one day I had it and attempted suicide. And thankfully, by the grace of God, the act failed. And so at that point, I knew I had hit rock bottom and needed to go find help. And it took me 2 years of searching for a doctor that could help, because I would say to them, I wasn't always like this. and I know I can heal. I just don't know how to heal. And it was before the time of like Google, of just search anything on Google and it will pop up. And so you had to find a doctor that could help you. Finally, 2 years of looking for a doctor, finally found a doctor who was like, yeah, I can help you heal, but there's no magic pill for this. It's not an overnight fix. Are you ready to like do a lot of work? And I was like, I have attempted suicide, 2 years, look for a doctor. Like, I will do anything at this point you tell me to do. And so she taught me, look, depression is your body screaming for help. Your body can't verbally talk to you, so it talks to you with symptoms. So we've got to do some tests and see what's going on with your body. So we did some blood work, some saliva tests, some urine tests, found out I had a whole slew of issues, from little things to bigger things, meaning like low on magnesium, low in vitamin D, but couldn't methylate B vitamins, but my liver was having some issue. My cortisol was off. I had gluten intolerance. I mean, the list just kept going on and on of things that my body was like, hey, I can't work properly if you're not feeding it properly and taking care of it. So anyways, went on a 1.5-year journey with her just to learn how to fuel my body properly and take care of it properly. And at the time working with her, I was on antidepressants, because in those 2 years of trying to find a doctor to help, everybody would just say, well, the only thing we have is an antidepressant for you. And don't get me wrong, they're life-saving. I have nothing against them, except that when I would say, well, the antidepressant heal me, they would say, no, it just will help you right now. Yeah. So my thing was I wanted to heal. So found her, went on that journey with her for 18 months and was able to get off the antidepressants, and ever since have not had to go back on them, because I learned how to fuel my body properly and take care of my body. Because really our bodies do want to do us well, but we've got to do our part in feeding and nourishing them well. Yeah. So that was my background. So then about 6 years ago, I felt like everyone around me was either dealing with depression, anxiety, ADHD, chronic fatigue, migraines, autoimmune issues. I mean, you name it. It was neighbors, extended family members, community members. And one day I just was like, oh, I wish I could help these people. I wish I could just go cook for them for a month, and I know they would feel so much better. But I was like, well, of course you can't do that. And so then I was like, oh, you know what? I think I'll start a little Instagram account. And I just want to show them like little simple ways that they can change and feel better. Yeah. And so my goal was to get 2,000 followers. I was like, okay, I'll just do this as a hobby. And if I get 2,000 followers, then great. Well, word just kept spreading. People kept sharing things like, oh, you guys, did you know you can just swap ketchup, one without high fructose corn syrup? I was trying to show just simple things, because I had 6 kids living at home with me, and they didn't want a kale and sardine diet. They wanted still waffles and hamburgers and things, but made with real food ingredients. So the Instagram is then what led to the business, because like I said, people are just sharing things and it started growing. And once I had about, was it like 100,000 followers? About that, yeah. I was like, oh, I actually have a customer base now. Like all these followers are also customers. And we had tried it out previously when I had about 30,000 followers with these digital downloads. And it was just these like, hey, download this and take it to the store, and it'll give you your 10 easiest swaps to make at the store. Or if you're having a baby, here's all these swaps you could make for a baby. You know, buy these lotions instead, or buy these shampoos, things like that. And it did really well. And so we made, it was like $1.99, these things. And we made like $30,000 in one day. And I was like, oh, wow, like people are wanting this info. Right. They're willing to pay a couple bucks for it, you know? Yeah. Anyway, so then once we got to 100,000, I was like, we have the customer base. Why don't we start making products that I can't find on the market that I wish we had for our kids, for us? Mm-hmm. And so we started with deodorant and face serum, crazy enough, because now you can find a lot of deodorants, but back then,
it was harder. Yeah.
I mean, only 5 years ago, it was really hard to find a better choice deodorant that didn't have the aluminum, the talc, all the stuff in it.
I used to break out underneath my armpits
from
the dyes.
Oh, really? Deodorant. Interesting. Yeah. So we started with those, and then like our next product was protein powder, because I had teenage boys and they were wanting protein powders. And so they would bring home stuff that tasted good, but I hated the ingredients. Yeah. So then I'd bring stuff home that had good ingredients and they hated the taste. It was like manure, to them. And so I was like, okay, protein powder it is. That's going to be our next product. We're going to make that with real food and have it taste good. And so that's what then launched our business. And now we're making lots of products and teaching people of how to live a healthier lifestyle.
Amen to that. And I just love how you're like, well, someone has to do this better. Why not me? And I think
Exactly.
I don't want to skim over this too, because as someone who I had a pretty severe battle with depression and anxiety and suicide attempt as well. And I'm similar to you in the fact that I do feel like Lexapro at time, I was on Lexapro as my antidepressant, and it did save my life, but it was acting as a mask.
Yes.
Right? That and my Xanax were sort of covering things up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I put more work in to like get off of my medications and actually go get help. And the coming out process really helped me, obviously, because mine was more of an acute stress response in my body versus just an overall depression. But I did find when I did make different choices in both my nutrition and also just my lifestyle of how I approached my relationship with my phone to just the whole 360 approach, it allowed me to get off my medications.
Yep.
So I'm sorry you had to go through that, but also you're using your platform now for good.
I was going to say it's a blessing in disguise, because
It
now
really is.
I would not have the empathy that I do for people without going through that. Plus, it just gives me a passion to help others, because I'm like, it's 2024. Why are we still dealing with so many mental health issues when we know so many things that can help them?
I would almost argue more these days. I
Yeah.
mean, and with social media and just the way that things are happening. And, I know one thing we talk about on here is the mental health component of fertility. It's a long journey.
Yeah.
And so easily doctors are like, just relax, don't stress. But at the same time, it's a huge financial burden on a lot of people
Right.
to like do egg retrievals and go through IVF and put your body through the hormones that you have to inject daily. That it's sort of lazy for doctors to say, like,
Right.
just relax. It's like, this is my life right now.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously I'm a big mental health advocate myself, but here at Daddyhood too, we just, we love talking about just health in general, and mental health is something, obviously that is important.
Yeah.
So.
And like you said, really hard for those going through infertility.
Yeah.
So many ups and downs and stresses and challenges and
Yeah.
hormone imbalances and all sorts of things.
Right. So you start with deodorant, you start with skincare, and then you move into proteins, and now you have over 200 products.
We do. And lots of things coming out, which we're excited about.
Same here. Where, what has inspired the new product launches? Is it the family? Is it sort of just the demand that you see, like, sort of in your central hub, and then you sort of attack it that way now?
Honestly, the majority of it is selfishly for things that I want or my kids. And like, I'll tell you one that's coming out and people are like, that is the weirdest one, but I really had it formulated for me and my kids. I was like, if I pass away, this is my legacy that I'm going to give my kids. Just because after going through all the testing, I know I have the MTHFR variant and I have double of the same variant, which makes methylation issues really hard. And I know my kids have it. So I made a liver complex with a doctor, and we formulated it exactly to like have the methylated B vitamins in it, herbs to really help the liver detox, like all the things that will help me through life, but also help all my kids have those risk factors of like depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar, infertility, because MTHFR is really heavily involved with infertility. Just all those risk factors may be lessened to hopefully give them that better chance of a healthier and happier lifestyle. And so that was made for me and my kids, but everybody's going to benefit from it that takes it. And so, like I said, it's selfishly for me, but also things that I know that busy moms would want. So for instance, we're coming out with a protein pancake mix and a protein muffin mix, because we're so busy. Who has time to make the muffins from scratch? And I love the ones that I make from scratch. So I just put them in a box, and now you just have to, mix some water and milk or something with it. It'll be really good.
You would love this. In high school, my dad was one of our high school football coaches, and we'd have the kids over, my teammates over to spend the night. And every morning that they spend the night, my mom would add protein powder to the pancake mix.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just because she wanted to make sure everybody was bulked up and getting ready and big and strong.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just finding little ways. And I think you said something that I think is, like, in my opinion, the key of what makes your account different on social media, but also just your business, is the easy swaps. You're not demanding a study. You're not demanding a massive lifestyle change. You sort of are taking the approach of, hey, swap this today, see how you feel, come back tomorrow. If you felt better, keep swapping it, and then try new things. I think that's the approach that in today's culture is needed, because so often all these diets are so extreme.
They are.
And it just puts people into this like moment where they feel like they have to perform and it's an all or nothing, and then they get defeated really easily. Because you're looking around, and social media is hard. It's challenging because nobody documents the rougher times, and very few people do.
Well, life is overwhelming. So the last thing that food needs to be is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it can be really easily. So it's like one little step at a time, one little change at a time, and eventually all those changes add up to a huge like snowball effect where you're feeling better.
Yeah. Well, I want to get at Jeff when she's going through all of this.
Yes.
Where are you at, and what are you up to? And I mean, obviously, you guys are incredible, and I'm sure there was a lot of support back and forth in all of this. But how has this been for you?
So it's challenging. We don't talk about the other side, right, very often. We hear the story of the person, what they went through, but the challenges that come with somebody who lives with somebody who's suffering from depression can be really challenging. And before we knew what was going on, from my perspective, I didn't know what was going on. I knew she was unhappy. Yeah. You know, as a spouse, you think, am I the cause of that unhappiness, right? Like, what is going on? And so when she's dealing with her own issues, she's obviously not in a place where she can provide the support, the love, all the things that a spouse needs, right? And so it creates this kind of a separation. So as she's going through this and suffering from this, we're also going through a separation of emotional separation of sorts, because she's doing everything she can just to make it through the day. Yep. And I don't know what's going on, so I don't know how to support her.
Right.
And so the frustrating part from my side is, without knowing this, I'm just thinking I'm either a horrible husband or we're just having problems in our marriage. And it became really, really hard. And it wasn't until after she had gone through attempting suicide that I actually understood what was going on.
Yeah. And how bad it was.
Yeah. And so we kind of had to develop this. It used to be, I'd be on my way to work and she'd say, I'm not doing good today. And I'd be like, oh, that sucks. Sorry, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
And I would just leave. And then I used to start getting phone calls during the days like, I'm really not doing good. To the point where one time it was like, you need to come home now or you'll have nobody to come home to. And that was kind of the eye-opener, like, oh, this is pretty serious.
Yeah.
And so we kind of devised this system of, if I'm getting ready to go to work and she's saying, I'm not having a good day, I'd be like, okay, are we talking, is this a 5 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10?
Like,
this
we
is
were
a challenging
so poor
time in our lives financially. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care what it takes. Figure out how you're going to be happy again. And so that's just kind of what we did.
That's incredible. And I'm sure.
And he's a saint for sticking around. But like he said, it's hard to know until the spouse realizes how bad it is. And so I should have verbalized better those few years of how bad it was. But it took the suicide attempt for him to be like, oh, okay, now I get how bad it is.
Yeah. I think one thing that I would like to know too is, as she's making all of these changes, are you in the house making the changes as well?
No. This was her journey.
Got it.
So I really didn't start until
he got his own blood work back.
So when she started the Instagram account, I did my blood work, and I did, she found this hair DNA analysis and all this kind of stuff, and all my tests came back. And I'm getting older at this time, and my joints hurt. I'm just not able to play basketball like I used to. I can't do this. The kids are just moving all around me because I'm way too slow. My joints hurt. Like, something's wrong, and my inflammation was off the charts. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I saw what it did for her. Maybe I should do something similar. And it's been an amazing journey for me as well. So I'd say about the last 5 years.
Okay. But he says he didn't, but at the same time, like, I'm cooking better in the home, and he's getting those dinners. He's just not knowing that he's getting a better ketchup without high fructose corn syrup. And he doesn't realize that I'm, using real ingredients in the cooking. So he was just busy with work doing.
I wasn't consciously making the change. She was making it.
Or if I'm like making homemade yogurt, he's benefiting from it, but not realizing that I just made homemade yogurt,
Right.
Yeah. So I benefited from her work. But mentally, it took me a number of years after her to kind of jump on board.
Wow. And so, I mean, you've already volunteered so much, so if you don't want to go into it, but I would love to know, just from a doctor standpoint, when you went in to say, like, hey, this is becoming too much after your attempt, from lifestyle start to finish, how long did it take, and all the differences you made in your diet? How long was that
from
journey?
when I started working with a doctor that could help me? So it was an 18-month journey with her. And so for the first year, we did not touch my antidepressants because she's like, you've got so much work you need to heal with your body.
Yeah.
We've got to do that first. And then after a year, we started weaning off the antidepressants.
Okay.
And then it was about 18 months of working with her. But then from there, I mean, a doctor can only do so much, even an amazing doctor. You've got to be willing to go do your own educating. And so I would read every article, book, go to classes, learn how to, do sourdough or do these different things.
Yeah.
And so I was just learning and trying to read as much as I could. And I would go walking with friends, and every morning I'd be like, listen to this article I read. Did you know that this and this and this? So I just was always learning things, and then went back to school to get my nutrition certificate, things like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, that's how Just Ingredients got started. That's how the social account and everything. I found it so helpful when I was going through my fertility struggles. So when I first got tested, which is going to get into, the first part of our topic that I want to cover with you, I remember going to the doctor's appointment, and the labs came in for Jordan, and they moved it over from Jordan, like 55 million sperm per, collection sample, or however they use in there. Colton, you had 4, and they were all dead. That's how the doctor presented it to me.
Horrible.
Wow.
And then somewhat moved on. And Jordan's like squeezing my leg underneath the table, and he's like letting me know it's all going to be okay, which it ended up. But he made those lifestyle changes with me. So like for me, it was hot tub and sauna, because anything that raises the temperature in the scrotum obviously affects. I was also taking TRT. So from my football days in college, I took some supplements that really threw my natural production of testosterone off. So my testosterone levels were in the low 200s for somebody at that time that's, 32, and I've had low testosterone since I was 26, 27. But what I found so helpful was Jordan made all the changes with me. And I know it seems little and, privileged at times too, of like hot tubbing and sauning and doing all of these things, but having a partner to support you and making those changes really help make the changes.
Well, and we should
been
say,
better at that.
though, you didn't argue or fight against any of them. He was like, yeah, do what you need to do. Like, I'm here to support you in whatever you change. But it was me.
I love though that you
making
said
the
though,
changes.
it was her journey, because you almost are empowering her too, to just like have her own thing to like go get and like achieve and grab.
Yeah, and when we would go to dinner, it would be like at a restaurant, be like, okay, what restaurants match your style, like you can eat. And so it wasn't that, it was like, you do that, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, it was really her journey, and I supported her in any way I could.
Yep.
But I had mentally said, I'm going to make this journey for myself yet. Yeah. So it was all about her and getting her healthy. So that's kind of the decision I made at that time. And then when she got herself better, she was like, okay, I'll help you now.
Yeah. Well, and it's sprinkled down to the entire family.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And millions of people. So just with the products that you guys have out now, and obviously your impact on social media, it's helped. So, and I think the way that you're approaching the business too, of selfishly I'm doing this because like I need to identify a problem. There's hundreds of thousands of millions of people out there that have that same problem. So it's a very smart approach to
Well,
business.
thank you.
It's like I need somebody to do it better. I'm going to do it better.
Well, and she has amazing followers. And the nice thing about social media is you do have a two-way conversation with DMs and so forth. And so a lot of the ideas that we get, or sometimes we can identify needs, are directly from her followers. And they have many great ideas. And so we love having that relationship where she can actually communicate with her followers. And sometimes she's like, yeah, I didn't know I wanted that. But yeah, that's an amazing idea. Yeah. So sometimes we get some ideas from there too.
Totally.
Yeah, it's not all about me. I do listen, listen to my audience. I'll tell you one though. I have a lot of stress moms, lot of stress moms that are stress parents, I should say, in reality, with everybody working and trying to raise families. And so that's where this adrenal complex came from, because it's one to help the body with stress.
Yes.
And it has sold so well. And I think it's just because we live in a really stress crazy world.
Yeah.
So anyway, point is, I do listen to my customers as well.
Yeah, well, I want to get into that a little bit too, because as one of your customers and somebody who DM'd you when I saw you examining the shelves for baby products too.
Oh, yeah.
How many people have sort of confided in you in your DMs, just as far as like, I'm having some fertility struggles. Do you have any recommendations here? Both men and women. I mean, I'm sure women are probably a little more popular just because our society puts a lot of pressure on women when it comes to fertility. But I know as a man too, there's some struggles for men too. So how many people have reached out and have you helped?
Do you know what the crazy thing is? I've told many people this. Maybe I was meant to do this to help people get pregnant, because honestly, it's almost every day that someone will give me the best DM saying like, we have dealt with infertility for like 6 years, and I've made so many swaps that you've suggested and listened to things, and we're pregnant and we're so excited. And so almost daily I get one of those, and some are super fun because they'll say, we haven't even announced it to our family yet, so don't share this DM, but we wanted you to be the first one to know. And so that's super fun too.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool being on the sidelines, because when we go to an event or something, Karalynne there's lines of people wanting to talk to her. They literally just want to come give her a hug and just say thank you and tell their story. They just want to tell her their story. And I get to sit there and watch, right? And I can't tell you how many infertility conversations she has, and these people who just line up. It's dozens and dozens into hundreds of people who have talked to her like, my infertility was horrible, and now we're pregnant or whatever, right? Yeah. It's really cool to see, and I get to kind of watch it from the sideline. Yeah. So it's really amazing because I see both their faces, and it's like, it's really a cool experience to see that.
And it's got to be a full circle moment for you, Karalynne, as far as like your journey through mental health, because everything ties back to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you make people feel better mentally, they're going to feel sharper and better too. So like fertility and struggling with fertility can lead to, dark thoughts and mental health issues as well.
Well, and a lot of what helps mental health issues helps fertility. I mean, it's all very, very related because it's the gut, right? Gut plays such a huge role in your brain and your mood, but also in hormones, right? And I mean, it's inflammation, and inflammation plays a huge role. I mean, we could talk about so many nutrients that, like, omega-3s are incredible for sperm, right? And the egg, but omega-3s are necessary for mental health.
Right.
So it's very closely related, a lot of it. And so if I'm talking even mental health and suggesting like, hey, you guys, maybe increase your folate, or maybe increase turmeric for some inflammation, or it's also helping those that are dealing with fertility. And so it's crazy how closely related they are, because I can talk gut health, liver health, inflammation, nutrients, and they will affect both mental health and fertility.
Well, I would like to hear from you, and I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. What are if you had 3 things, doesn't have to be supplements, just 3 things to help and or easy swaps for people going through a fertility journey right now, what would they be?
Okay. They're probably the same 3 I'd tell mental health, but maybe a little different. Maybe there's 5 though.
Okay, give me 5. Let's give them options.
Oh, for fertility. Okay, well, 1, omega-3s.
Yep.
For sure. Like I said, because it's going to lower the inflammation, but they're also the building blocks for hormones, things like that. 2, crazy enough, I would say fiber, meaning like fruits and veggies, because the gut is
natural fiber.
Yeah, the gut is so related with hormones. Like almost every hormone either is produced, secreted, regulated, created by the gut. Yep. And so we need to start there. And fiber feeds the good bacteria in the gut. So like number 1 thing, like you don't even need to get to a doctor. Let's just add in more fruits and veggies, so that therefore, and beans and things that will, and if as you're adding in, that will just sort of eliminate some of the sugar and processed foods, hopefully, because you won't want to eat as many things. So the omegas, the fiber, to pick just 3.
You could add a couple more in.
Well, okay, fertility though, crazy enough. Okay, I'm going to choose this one for fertility.
Yeah.
Crazy enough, I'm going to say removing endocrine disruptors.
What are endocrine? Like I know, but like what are some main products that have endocrine?
Okay, there's a lot, but let's start with parabens and phthalates.
Okay.
So those are things that you find in beauty products. So aftershave, shaving cream, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, body lotion, right? The parabens are in there to preserve the products, because they do need a preservative if they have water in them. Yep. You don't want them getting moldy and full of bacteria. But we have way better options than parabens. Yep. Phthalates are in these beauty products to keep the scent lasting long. So, you have like that, for a girl, cherry blossom lotion from, a store. And 5 years later, you open it up and it still smells like cherry blossom. Those are the phthalates. And so those 2 are endocrine disruptors, which means it's mimicking your own hormones, right? Especially the estrogens. It's mimicking those hormones so that your hormones can't do their actual job. And so those estrogen, the mimicking ones are hooking onto the cell's receptors, right? And messing up the cell's job.
So everyday products.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, so
you're listing the products like, oh, we use those every single day.
Right.
Yeah, so parabens and phthalates are huge endocrine disruptors, but so are like BPAs, which you find in plastics, right?
Yes.
So microwaving in plastic, let's just use glass storage containers, things like that. PFAS chemicals, the PFAS, I don't know if you've seen those on like, all the cooking pots and pans and griddles and things, but they're forever chemicals. We're finding them in our water. So, getting rid of them in our kitchen appliances, filtering our water. We live in a day and age where we need to filter our water these days. So all those are endocrine disruptors. And that's why I think when I'm teaching about how they can mess with mental health, people are switching who are on a fertility journey, and they're getting rid of these endocrine disruptors. And there's so many studies about these endocrine disruptors. Oh my goodness, lowering people's sperm count, affecting the sperm, affecting the quality of the sperm, affecting the egg. There's just so many things.
And I could tell you, like, as a holistic approach too, like, of course there was specific things I did for my fertility, but Jordan, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, he is the best of holding me accountable for products that we bring into the house. There's been times where I bought stuff from home from the grocery store and he either had me go back and return it, and I kid you not,
That's awesome.
And or we just gave it away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just like, he was like, we can't have that in the house. Sorry. That's not
good for him.
What?
Good
And
for him.
He'll walk me through the ingredient list and say, see this?
I can relate with you.
Yes. I was like, is it really that? And he's like, yes, we're not putting that on our bodies.
Yeah.
Many times I've been like, don't buy that and don't ever buy it again. Go return it.
I've gotten better though. So very rarely do I get told now, go return that.
Because you become more conscious of it.
Correct.
It's interesting. And my mom wouldn't mind me sharing this with you too, but she has been carnivore. So she only eats, it's just an animal-based diet.
Yep.
Which, look, extremes, it's like I'm sort of like iffy about.
Yeah.
But what I will say is she's off all of her medication, including her migraine medication. She lost 30 pounds. She's no longer diabetic. She has all of these incredible health benefits that works for her.
Yeah.
And she looks good, feels good. She's mentally sharp. And she only eats meats, dairies, and eggs.
Well, it's keeping her blood sugars balanced is what it's doing.
Right.
So she doesn't have the inflammation from all the crazy insulin spikes and things.
Right. And she's one that, her and Jordan have bonded over that as well. They both are all like on text holding me accountable, and he'll joke and be like, you'll never believe what your son tried to bring in the house today. And I'm like, great.
Well, and you know what I would almost suggest to her? Maybe I shouldn't suggest anything, but I think
she'll love this.
I think those diets are great for a time to regulate things, right? And to get health issues in place. But then I'd say, like, try adding a little fruit and veggies in, and try getting the fiber, and let's just see how it works. And like, eat your protein first, then those maybe, so that if you're afraid of your blood glucose spiking, things like that. I don't know.
No, that's great. And she loves educating herself, and she listens to all my podcasts, so she's going to love this. But she has been thinking about slowly reintroducing foods to her diet. Because when I was having some weird eczema, I did an elimination diet. Yeah. So I started from scratch. I started adding things in, and I found it was alcohol and dairy.
Oh, yeah.
When I consumed
Makes
large
sense.
amounts of alcohol and dairy, I had eczema around my eye.
Makes sense.
And it would get inflamed.
The liver and the gut.
The liver and the gut.
Yep.
So your new product is going to be very helpful for my eczema and my liver health.
Amazing, but I should not say go drink, everyone, because this pill will be amazing for the liver, but it will help the liver detox for sure.
And I don't drink. I think that's also why I was so sensitive to it, because I don't drink very often, but when I did, it was the next morning. I was like,
interesting.
Red around the eye. I was like, I had
that's
out.
for sure the liver.
Yeah.
Just being sluggish with its detoxing.
I want to get into, now that Jordan and I have announced our pregnancy and we're expecting our baby boy, and as we grow our family, and we sort of, our family motto is we want to protect our unit. And part of the protecting is giving him hopefully the longest life of, that he can possibly have. And something you guys have done, and what's been fun to follow on social media, is you have fun with your family as far as educating them and teaching them. Where has that come from? Because not every family sort of takes the same approach you do, as far as like having fun on your adventures and your lifestyle, and, promoting health the way that you guys do. Well,
first of all, congrats. That's so awesome. Exciting. Thank you. Yes. Really exciting.
We're so excited.
Oh, so fun. I believe that it's the parent's responsibility to teach the child in all aspects of life, right? like, how are we to say, oh, no, you only teach respect and the teacher at school teaches how to be honest? Like, it doesn't work like that. It's a parent's job to teach kindness, being respect, obedience, honesty, all these characteristics that we want them to know. And it's their responsibility to teach, I think, about food as well. Like, hey, here's your body. If we feed it with all sugar, it's not going to feel very well and you're probably going to get sick. And, but we want to make sure that you live a really healthy life so that you can run and play and do all the fun things, and this is the way that you are going to live the healthiest life. Yeah. And so it's just teaching them little things. It's not being extreme. So going back to your mom's diet, right? I'm not an extreme person. I'm like, okay, do those extreme diets for a little bit to get your health regulated, but then let's incorporate everything. And we're the same way at home. Like, hey, we're going to enjoy shakes when we go to Bear Lake, and raspberry shakes are the famous shakes that everybody needs to try. We're not going to say, oh, no, we can't do that. We don't live extremes. But my kids know, like, oh, yeah, we don't eat Frosted Flakes and Oreos 3 meals a day. We eat things that nourish our body. And so it's purely educating in simple ways, not being overwhelming about it and not shaming about it. Yeah. Right? And the other thing, sorry, were you going to say something?
I was, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, our oldest son, he came a little bit later to the journey. So he used to eat top ramen, and he used to eat all these things. And when we started eliminating these things out of our household and out of our diets, he's like, when I leave this house, I'm going to eat nothing but top ramen. He literally said that, and we're like, go for it.
Every day as a teenager. Yeah. When I move out, I'm just going to eat top ramen.
So guess what he did when he moved out? He ate top ramen for a week, and he called us up, and he says, Mom, I feel horrible. I will never eat top ramen again in my life. It's been horrible.
He's like, I feel so sick. I have the worst headache. I don't feel good. Oh, it was awesome. So and he's never had top ramen since.
Right. So you teach and then let them learn. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of the philosophy we've taken. It's not like we're not going to force on them. We teach and then they learn because they know.
Yeah. But here's another thing, though. The parents are the gatekeeper as to what comes in the house. Yeah. And so parents will tell me all the time, like, oh my gosh, my kids eat so many fruit snacks. I wish they'd eat or quit eating so many. And I will say, well, who buys the groceries? Yeah. Right? They're not buying it. And so we have to remember as parents, you're the gatekeeper. Let's have them snack on real fruits and, apple and some peanut butter or some protein powder. Like we can make snacks with real foods. And I think parents just need to realize they're the gatekeeper and they're also the educator. Being a parent is being an educator in all aspects of life.
Well, I'm excited to take that role on with Jordan, and he's training me as one of the gatekeepers of this house. I'm trying my best here.
That's awesome.
I will say, I'm a big fan of ButcherBox now because I go into grocery stores and I don't really, once again, I don't read, oh, this is farm raised or farm raised fish or like whatever.
Or wild caught.
Versus regular. And it's just easier when you have sort of that meat subscription that it's just like, where it's coming from and it's shipped to your house directly. So you don't even have to like worry about that aspect. So there's like little routines like that I found helpful for me as someone who it's somewhat challenging to pay attention at all times of what you're bringing in the house. Right. What are some other tips you have for parents out there as the gatekeepers of here are 3 or 4 simple things to look for or do or implement into your daily life to help just protect your household?
Well, one, buy more fruits and veggies. People complain all the time that eating healthy is so expensive, but in reality, those single package processed foods are way more expensive than just the fruits and veggies. And then 2, when buying processed foods, I know this is so oversimplified and people hate when nutritionists or dietitians say this, but in reality, it's the easiest way. Turn it over if you don't understand the ingredients on the back of the list, or if those ingredients aren't in your pantry, then there's probably a better choice out there. So I always say, like, you don't have high fructose corn syrup in your pantry, so let's find one without it. Or you don't have mono and diglycerides in your pantry. Let's find a better choice. So really it is going that simple of let's go back to the basics of what people used to eat, what your great-great-grandmother used to eat, the real foods. Let's do that. That's what nourishes your body. And let's just add in more fruits and veggies and quit buying so many processed snacks.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that is like when our kids will have friends over, they'll say, hey, Mom, Dad, I've got like 10 friends coming over. So we'll go get some food for them to snack on. Yeah. And we'll buy some of the traditional snacks because we're not going to try to force, things on people. But we always buy fruits and vegetables. And I will tell you, when we put the spread out and we come down at the end of the night, it's the fruits and vegetables are always gone. And some of those Well, it's fruits. So
Sometimes
like
the
also,
veggies.
well, carrots and celery with the dips, right?
Yeah.
They're always gone, right? And you go down there and you're like, the traditional ones are still sitting there. And it's like if we give our kids the better options, almost always they'll choose the better option because their bodies do crave those.
Right.
So,
but it's not the easiest to always keep those fresh.
it's not. So you do kind of have to run to the store and get them. But you know,
I will say one of my favorite products that you guys have too that we haven't mentioned is the popcorn salt flavors.
I'll take credit for that one.
Okay, I guess it's someone who loves salty.
Yes.
I used to go at times in my childhood, I'm ashamed to admit, to the movie theaters to get popcorn just to snack on. I wouldn't even go to the movies.
You guys are 2 peas in a
love
pod.
we made the
We go to
popcorn salts.
AMC just to go get the popcorn.
I told Karalynne, I'm like, we have to make popcorn salts. I love popcorn, and I'm tired of putting junk on it. So let's make popcorn salts.
And we literally looked everywhere. There are no popcorn salts out. They're made with just real food. They all have like inflammatory oils added to them. Some even had dyes added to them, sugar added to them. I'm like, these are terrible. It's just like if you want cheddar cheese, I'm like, why can't it be like cheddar cheese and salt? Let's put it in a bottle and shake it.
I've added the salt, like those popcorn salt to broccoli and to my Brussels sprouts.
Oh,
that I do in air fryers.
Oh, really?
So there's so many different uses. By the way, I'll tell you as one of your customers, like I've used it in other ways than just what it's. And same with like the protein. I love instead of just protein shakes, what most people think. I love having, I call it team sweets before bed. I have just like 1 cup of like I need something sweet to send me off to bed.
Well, that's awesome.
I think I saw it from one of your videos last year. I think one of your kids did, but I just took like half a protein powder cup and sprinkled it into like some granola at night.
Oh, there you go.
That with granola and like a couple of fruits and called it a night. But
that's perfect.
Yeah.
there's so many ways to like sneak in those protein, because I think that was one thing. I still do have a weird relationship with food. So from playing football, I used to in college have to be walked around with our team nutritionist to make sure that I was gaining weight. And they needed me to gain weight, and I was so conscious of my body and I didn't like how it was changing and how I was putting weight on that I started associating with, even when we first started dating, I would break his plate down. Be like, you only have 20% protein on your plate.
Oh, interesting.
And you have 50% carbs, but like that's just how my brain worked. Is we'd sit down for a meal and it either wouldn't have enough color or not have enough protein, and that's just sort of how I was wired. So I had to rework my whole relationship with food just because it was so sports driven.
But I think parents are afraid of creating that mentality in their kids, and so they're going the extreme of not teaching their kids. And so we have to learn not to be extreme and just teach the basics.
Yeah.
Of like, these fruits and vegetables have vitamins and minerals that are going to help you feel strong. I mean, simple as that if we need to when they're little.
Yeah. And then as they get older, obviously I think the ramen story is incredible and like spot on. Yeah. How else do you educate, you now are more positioned to answer teenage questions too, which probably are more challenging because they can push back and communicate back with you versus, newborns and babies. But how do you continue to educate them in meaningful ways?
For food or for anything in
I think
life?
Just health in general.
So if you start when they're little, it's a lot easier because like he said, our oldest knew the Frosted Flakes, the Twinkies, the Zingers, all that stuff. But teaching little, and then they follow your example. A lot of it, they just do what they're used to doing in the home, right? They'll just follow that example, but then also letting them learn on their own. And so people ask me almost daily, how do you deal with like your teenagers going out to Burger King or McDonald's for lunch? My kids' school is lunch release. They drive off with their friends to Chick-fil-A. And I say, I let them do it. Like, I can't control that. There is no way I can control a teenager and what they do with their friends or at lunch. Right. So I'm the gatekeeper at my house. I know that I feed them really well. I know they have a liver that detoxes 24/7, and their liver is not being overburdened in my home. And so it's going to take care of the McDonald's just fine. It's going to take care of the Burger King just fine. And they're going to learn on their own eventually, because another story, our son wanted pancakes from McDonald's, and we never were like, we have pancakes at home, right? So he went as a teenager for lunch one day with his friends, ordered 2 things of pancakes and, just poured that syrup on. Oh, yeah. He had figured out, so he comes home and he's like, Mom, I feel so sick. Like, my stomach is hurting. I feel terrible. And he told us what he ate, and he's like, I think it was like 110 grams of, or something around there, 110 grams of sugar and 1 sitting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's why you feel bad. Now you know. And he's never since had them.
Yeah.
So sometimes they just have to learn it on their own as teenagers and letting them make those choices at lunch and with their friends. They're going to always come back to how they felt good at home. They'll learn.
And I think we always make sure we go out of our way when they do come to us and complain, oh my gosh, I don't feel well. Or they're just really grumpy or something, right? We're like, what did you eat? And then we just help them identify, you are acting this way or you're feeling this way because you ate X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And helping them understand, if you don't want to feel that way, then don't put that into your body.
Right.
And that goes a long way because they remember how they felt.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, but talking about how they feel, can we talk about toddlers?
Yeah, so that was the next question I was going to get to. Both two, they're two-pronged. I would love to talk about toddlers, but also I am very curious as someone who can't fully yet rely on breast milk. It's a topic that we're still discussing as how we're going to manage that with their surrogate. But formulas. So let's talk about formula, but let's start with your toddlers.
All I was going to say about toddlers and
Yes.
how they behave. So this is the side topic. But when he said to the teenagers, like, what have you eaten? Like, have you had any protein today? Are you just on carbs and this is why you're being hangry? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is the same with toddlers. And so many parents out there are worried about how they need to discipline or what the reaction is, where in reality they need to look and say, what has my toddler had today? Has my toddler had any protein this morning? Was it just cereal and an Eggo waffle and for lunch some Lunchables, and so we've only had carbs all day? And of course they're now at Costco on an errand with you melting down because they feel terrible. Right. So there's so many therapists, which are great out there, right? Like trying to teach parents how to discipline or manage these outbursts or manage these tantrums. And no one's talking about, wait, back up a few steps. Let's ask the parent, what has this poor child eaten today? Because that might be the reason they're having this tantrum. Anyways, that's what I was going to say about toddlers. Because it's the same in teenagers.
Well, knowing your fan base too and how busy they are, and a lot of just speaking too as someone who's like a little intimidated, how do I do my best with the busy life that I have and work and balance and all that? What are some easy ways for parents to set their toddlers up for success when they are feeding them?
Well, it's the same as teenagers. The kids need the protein and the healthy fats in the morning. They don't need a Bisquick pancake.
But is there something quick that parents can do? Because I'm just thinking is like, I know we're the gatekeepers. I know we're going to bring good products in, but I don't have 40 minutes in the morning to prepare.
No one does. No one does.
So like,
we don't.
what is a realistic?
Scrambled eggs, a quick scrambled eggs, quick protein shake, like little
frozen
toddlers.
sausage links?
Sure, the good ones.
Okay. Yes.
The good ones.
Applegate?
Yeah.
And you know what I'll do is I'll like on Saturday or Sunday, I'll make pancakes, but I like double the recipe and I'll make 40 of them.
Yeah.
And I'll keep 20 of those in the fridge. And during the week, I'll just pull those out and heat them up and they're good to go. And they're the pancakes with the protein, right?
Yep.
So they're a good fix for the morning for protein and getting them ready for school. So they're not just eating carbs.
Amazing.
But I love seeing when parents tag me that their kids have sippy cups full of like chocolate protein in it or strawberry protein in it. And I'm like, so much better than just chocolate milk.
Yeah.
So much better. Your kid's going to
Less
behave for
sugar
you so much better with less sugar in them.
And I would argue those powders too have more flavor, in my opinion.
They're good.
Our
would say your
protein.
protein.
Yes,
Well, thank
Because
you.
as someone I've been all over the board with protein. I've taken the worst of the worst and probably what I assume is the best of the best at different levels, and from all the name brands to Isopure, like there's like so many different ones that I've experimented with. I love trying new things, and I truly do mean it. Like the variety pack was our favorites. As you guys were preparing, like, what's some of your favorites? I was like, I love the variety pack because it just all of the different flavors are so good, and we like changing things up.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to have some consistency in, but like you're gonna get bored of the same vanilla shake every single
You will.
morning.
Yeah.
You have to switch it up.
That's why we make more flavors.
And well, you have such a great not only product list but also just flavor list too.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Should we talk now formula?
Yes, let's get into formula because this is
skipped over that question as I was talking about toddlers.
This is a part that's very intriguing to me because Jordan and I have different thoughts and also just we've read different articles and we compare notes and we always try to educate ourselves. But one thing that is concerning is with American baby formula, the amount of oils and the types of oils that are in that. I think, can we get into that a little bit? And I don't want to mansplain or explain what I know, but I'll sort of chime in because you're the expert here.
Well, and you know a lot though too from studying it. But Okay, so people need to realize that formula, you have to have the 3 macros in there. You have to have the protein, the fat, and the carbs in there.
Yes.
And so some people, we'll get to the oils, but some people are like, oh my gosh, why is there sugar in here? Well, there has to be, but let's choose the better choice sugar to put in there. And so like, I don't know if you know, you probably do, EU standards is they cannot put in glucose or table sugar, corn syrup, things like that. It's very strict as to what they can use for their carbs. But here in America, we use a ton of corn syrup solids. Like that's second ingredient on a lot of formulas.
Yeah.
So in the EU and the better choices, they use just the true lactose from the milk as the carb. And so that's one thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, then there's the different types of protein you can put in there. There's the different types of oils. And here in America, we get a bad rap for the oils, but we need the oils. Your baby needs healthy fats. Like they need to be in there. Personally, I think it comes down to how the oil is processed. That's a huge part of it because a lot of the oils have a lot of the formulas have canola oil.
Yeah.
Well, canola gets a terrible rap, but it's because of how it's processed. It is a terrible process that uses the bleaching agents and uses hexane, and you can watch the YouTube videos on it, right, and see how it's processed. But organic canola oil is not processed like that, or cold water pressed oil, right, is processed totally different. And so that's going to be a better option in the formula than our gross way of processing it. And so I really like the organic the best because it's helping you know that it's processed better than other stuff.
How do we know, though, how things are processed?
That's the tricky part. And
that's the problem with the food system as a whole, huh?
In any ingredient, like anything even from your milk, the milk protein that's put into the formula, how is that processed? Because now making a whey protein, I see all the different ways that it can be extracted. And so really, unless you delve into their websites and call and ask questions, it's really hard. You just have to take what's on the ingredient label.
You have to take it for what it is.
Yeah, you do.
Typically, if a company is doing things the right way, they like to advertise it.
Yes.
So if you can't find the information you're looking for, it's probably
hiding it for a reason.
Yes,
it's
for sure.
Not open to everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting because I thought I found a great American-made formula product, and I presented it to Jordan. I said, "Hey, how about this certain option?" And within 2 minutes, I had a screenshot back with a highlighted section on the ingredients list of a couple things, and I did my research on it. And I was like, well, actually, what I'm reading is those oils are needed to carry and transport the nutrition to enter into the baby's body. And
you do have to have those.
And he said, but they could use a different type of oil.
They could.
And that was, to the point. But the more people we're talking to, there's other ways that we can introduce and also support our baby's health that might not counteract the side effects of oils and stuff. But once again, it's like, for us, we have limited options as a same-sex couple. Like, there are going to be moments where maybe something doesn't work out and we can't get the breast milk. So we're going to have that plan. And we're looking into some EU formulas as well. But right now we want to try to make sure that we have, everything set up for the best of our baby.
So can I tell you a few other things that I would look into?
Please,
if I was getting a
yes.
formula? Well, and the other hard part is price for a lot of parents. And there's a lot of women that can't breastfeed. So it's not just two men, in your situation. It's a lot of women have issues that can't breastfeed. So there needs to be an option that lots of people can have. But the problem is price point too. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't afford the EU ones. You've probably looked into them. They're pricey. But if you could have
too on top of
right,
yeah.
But if you can choose the best of the best, I think one, it needs a prebiotic in it. So all the EU ones have like the probiotics and prebiotics.
Can you explain that? Because you do talk a lot about prebiotics in your page, but for the audience here, they might not know exactly what that is. Can you just give me a quick
so
summary?
the probiotics are the good bacteria in the gut, right? But we need to feed those so that they nourish and grow. It's like planting a rose bush and then just leaving it there, it would die, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. We're planting these good bacteria in the gut. We've got to nourish them. And so the prebiotics feed those probiotics. But there's actually a lot of studies in newborns and babies showing that the formula that has prebiotics and probiotics, their gut looks very, very similar to breastfed babies' guts.
Okay.
And so for me, that's one of like the biggest things. Like people are fighting about the ingredients. I'm like, no, go make sure it's got prebiotics and probiotics. So the EU, most of them do.
Right.
In America, they're becoming more trendy. But even like 9 years ago when I had my baby, they were not in any, like hardly any American ones, but they are now. But look for that. But then also the type of milk can be interesting. I actually like, well, if I could have the best of the best, is organic, grass-fed. So these cows are out just grazing on nature, doing what they're supposed to do, but A2. So A2 casein is,
Casein.
yes. So
Okay.
milk.
So I know from my experience with casein's more of a slow digesting protein.
Yes,
Is that correct?
but it can cause a lot of stomach issues for people, especially A1. And most of our milk on the market today is A1. So A2, like you might see in Costco now in health stores, it will say like A2 milk. So A2 casein is one that is more easily digested, and so it's easier then for the baby to digest. But goat milk is all A2. That's why so many people will say like, oh, when I switched to goat milk, my baby was able to digest it better. They weren't spitting up. They weren't hurting as much.
Right.
And so to me, look for the prebiotics, probiotics, look for the A2 organic grass-fed formula if you can afford all of that. If you can't afford all that, like my number one stay away from is the GMOs that are being put in the formula.
Yeah.
Those GMOs we know are slathered with glyphosate, and little baby stomachs cannot handle the glyphosate. So stay away from the glyphosate. But yeah, those are few suggestions that I say with the
Love it.
with the formula.
We're trying to take all of the suggestions that we can get right now.
Yeah.
I think what you guys have built and what you've gone through has been so special and so needed in today's culture and society. I think it's just a weird time that we're living in right now. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of information. There's also like a lot of, inaccurate stuff going on. And just I think overall right now what I'm feeling is there's a lack of trust in, these companies and the responsibilities that they have to disclose what is in their products. And I think that is one thing that when I look at Just Ingredients, I know exactly what is in the products and I don't have to question it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
As we've been making products, though, I am amazed at what you can hide on the ingredient label. Amazed. Like
From what you guys don't have to disclose. You can just say like a proprietary blend. If you
Yes,
get away with it.
and you can say under natural flavors. I just found out that there's a company that uses a foaming agent and they put it under their natural flavors. It just gets considered as natural flavor. So you can hide so many things. Plus, we have learning that you can hide all the processing agents. So any agents used to process things, you hide those as well. You don't have to mention them.
Anything that's under 2% of the total formula does not need to be mentioned. Yeah. So that's one thing we would never do. We always put everything with full transparency.
Yeah.
It's what we want people to know what's in our products.
I love what you said earlier. You're like, if it's hard to find, they're hiding it for a reason.
Well, okay.
That's such a great...
One little thing. This one irks me. Natural flavors.
Yeah.
So many of them have corn in them. I mean, so many as I'm looking at them. And so many people have corn allergies. So I'm like, this is terrible. We're giving them corn and not even letting them know that there is corn in this product. Anyways, that's a little pet peeve of mine.
Well, before you go, we love to ask everybody, and I love when I have two people on because I get double. We would love for you to leave us with some words of wisdom. So whoever wants to go first, it could be a quote, a poem, words you live by, something you've discovered this week, this year, in your lifetime. Just leave us with something.
Oh, I have lots. Which one am I
I'll
going
let you start while I think about it.
This actually is from Mr. Rogers, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it's so simple, but it's so true if you think about it. So the first step in being successful is being kind. The second step to success is being kind. And the third step to being successful is being kind.
I love that. That might be my favorite of all of the episodes we've ever done.
Nice and simple, but you know what?
It's free.
Exactly. Honestly. And it'll make you happy.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And Karalynne, she's always great about focusing on trying to be kind. And that's because on social media, you know how hard that can be sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, but for me, what I've identified as like the biggest factor in my life and what I see in my kids and people around me is just live confidently. If you can be confident with who you are and just live confidently, it just makes all the difference in the world. So that's my saying.
Be confident, be kind.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a wrap on daddyhood.
The ride of your life is daddyhood.